Irashaimase. Hello and welcome to Fitaurus Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fitaurus. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this Saturday we have Game Tengoku CruisinMix, the classic Jaleco arcade and Saturn shoot 'em up remastered for the PC and PlayStation 4. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. So here we find ourselves at the main menu of Game Tengoku CruisinMix. So we've got several modes here. There's the classic mode, which goes and takes the original Saturn version and gives it a couple tweaks. There's the arcade mode plus, which takes the original arcade mode and once again it makes some tweaks to it, and it also provides for DLC characters. None have been released at this point, but there are at least 3 planned. Data mode, where you can look at the history, the promo material, as well as some screenshots of the games the characters in this game come from, the DLC check, and options. As far as options are concerned, I feel that this port is relatively bare bones. It doesn't have a tate scroll mode for the arcade version, which would be really nice if it did. But all it has is just a stretch presentation or a dot-by-dot presentation for the screen itself. You can also rebind your controls as well as change your volume settings. So let's dive into the classic mode. So Game Tengoku was released by Jaleco and it originally came out in arcades in 1995. And then in 97 it received an enhanced Saturn port, and that's what this game right here is. It's basically the entire Saturn version with a couple things taken out because they went and put them into the actual main menu of the CruisinMix version present. So there's a lot of voice acting, there's a lot of cutscenes and animation. So as we start the game itself, we're taken to the menu inside the menu, as it were. It definitely kind of seems deep, but this is Game Tengoku's, the Saturn version's menu. So here we've got the arcade mode, we've got the arrange mode, and then we also have the ability to go into options. The arcade mode is pretty basic, it's just the arcade version on the Saturn. The arrange mode is the special one that is present here on Game Tengoku for the Saturn. It adds 2 extra stages, as well as having all these voiced cutscenes before and after all the stages. It's really neat, but the version that we're going to be looking at today is the arcade mode. So once we select arcade mode, we're taken to our screen selection. So here we can select to have it be a vertical scroll, or we can have it be a tate. Although with the usual aspect ratio of screens these days, you're still going to have the letter boxes, so it's kind of tate, but not really. So we'll go ahead and take the Yoko option. Then we're given the ability to choose our mode. There's 2 modes that you can play for the game. There's the normal game mode, which is you going through the normal set of 6 stages, or there's the time attack, where you're playing the time attack stage and trying to score the highest amount of points in 180 seconds. Picking the normal game, we're taken to our character selection screen. And as far as these characters are concerned, so these are 5 characters, and there's actually 6 ships that you can be totals, but one of them is only available in the arrange mode, or in the arcade plus mode for the rest of the game itself. But you've got the pilot Genius, Celia, Zedyne Mark II, Pig, and Momoko. I'm going to pick Momoko as her bombs in particular I think are really unique, and that's actually very true. And here we are in Game Tengoku, Game Paradise. So each character has their own individual shots as well as own individual bombs. In stage 1, we start out flying above this arcade, fighting ashtrays and tabletop arcade cabinets that are trying to destroy us. As far as our mechanics are concerned, it's relatively straightforward. We have a shot, which we have the ability to rapid fire with a button press, or we can fire it normally, charge it up, and release a charge shot. We also have a bomb, and that makes up the main mechanics of the game itself. So in the options, it is possible to turn on an auto bomb so you don't lose lives when you take hits, and at the moment I do have that turned on. Throughout the course of the stages, there'll be mini bosses like that, and as we destroy some enemies, we'll get these eggplants, which will be worth various amount of points based off of how many we've collected. Starting at 1,000, working its way up to 10,000, and every once in a while, although I'm not 100% sure what spawns them, we'll get larger eggplants that are worth a total of 48,050 points. It's a really specific number, so I'm sure there's some meaning behind it, but I don't know what they are, like these giant ones here. So the game's plot. So we're characters from various Jaleco arcade titles, and the reason we're in here fighting is we're trying to defeat the evil, like, perverted mad scientist Genius Yamada, who happens to be the face you see on this arcade machine. He's trying to build a game Tengoku, a game paradise, and take over the game world. So the part-time employee at this particular arcade, Yuki Ito, is slapped together all these used arcade boards and like summoned all these various heroes to help defeat Genius Yamada. Is he really a genius? I don't know. And that's the basic plot premise of the game. So we're going through various games, defeating Genius Yamada's plots and all these enemies that he's like summoned to go and do his bidding. And the game itself just comes across as really fun and cute because of the presentation that we have. So there you saw the first use of a bomb that I've had in this playthrough. So the fun thing about Momoko's bombs is whenever she uses a bomb, you get various images of her cosplaying and as certain characters or certain or in certain outfits, and it's just the funnest bomb out of all 6 of the characters. Although the one that's not available in this arcade version, the one that's available in the arrange mode for the Saturn one, has a really unique bomb as well. That one, you've got these little helper soldiers running around and shooting enemies for you, but when you use your bomb, those helpers blow up. You're like literally telling them to self-destruct, and they do. It's kind of horrific in a way. Anyway, we're just about at the end of this stage as we fight this Gundam girl and her giant beam cannon. Take her out and she falls into the pile of toys below. And our boss has arrived. So there are some really fun boss fights in this game. This one's definitely one of them. Her weak point isn't actually visible most of the time. It's the bell itself. Every once in a while it'll change into this question mark, and then you can shoot it. But in the meantime, she'll attack us with all the stuffed animals that are around there. Sometimes like summoning these tokens that will blow up into shots if we're not careful. And generally, it's just a cute, fun boss fight. Like, even on like slightly higher difficulties, which I believe I have this one set to easy, it's not too bad of a boss fight. Rather than continue to go through all the stages, I'm going to take a second to pop back to the top menu, as the game calls it, which is the CruisinMix menu itself. I'm going to go into the Arcade Mode Plus. I'll swap characters, so yeah, we'll go ahead and take Pig. And one of the things about the Arcade Mode Plus is you can select which stage you want to play. So my favorite stage out of all of the 6 base stages, I really like the 2 stages that the Arrange mode on the Saturn version add, but unfortunately those aren't playable on the Arcade Plus mode. Real disappointment that that's not the case, but it's like stage 5. I love what they do in this stage, and one of the Saturn stages is very, very similar. You also have the ability to, of course, change your modes here, change your characters. Pig's a really great one. His shot happens to be kind of an exploding bomb, so his is a good choice. One thing you might have noticed is as I'm picking up items, the characters themselves have little sound clips that play constantly. So in this stage, 32-bit CPU captured by 8-bit CPU. So we have these higher level graphics getting transformed into older pixel versions of games, some of which you'll easily see and recognize what they're parodying. So as far as minus flavors are concerned for game Tengoku, I feel like the sound clips can get a little frustrating, but that's not necessarily anything about the remastering itself, but that's more just the design and of the time. And also the PC port itself is a little bare bones. For the moment, it's only available on Steam and the Japanese, or rather Steam in Japanese language, and then the Japanese PSN. It will be releasing, I believe they're targeting February on 2018 for the English release, and hopefully the PlayStation 4 port will also come out around the same time on the North American and the European PSNs. But for now, the Steam version is available, as well as the version on the Japanese PSN. You'll just have to play the game in Japan or in Japanese until the languages are updated. And over here, we're fighting some like breakout Arkanoid style blocks. If we don't destroy them, they become shots and fire at us. I think it's a really like neat mechanic to see. Also, these fighters transforming into these older, like 8-bit looking birds. I just love this stage. It's really, really great. As far as the plus flavors are concerned, I really like these kind of parody shoot 'em ups. It's like the Parodius and this title, and this is one that I've definitely been looking forward to doing a review on for a really long time. I just hadn't gotten around to it, and with this CruisinMix version coming out, I figured it was most appropriate to wait for this title before I got around to reviewing Game Tengoku, Game Paradise. It did also receive a sequel on the PlayStation 2, or not the PlayStation 2, on the PlayStation, so that's something to look forward to in the future as well. Hopefully that'll get a CruisinMix also. But plus flavors, so I just love the whole parody feel of the game itself. You've got all those characters, all these neat stages. This is another really awesome stage. The racetrack where you've got all these cars driving up and shooting at you. It's a really fun mechanic, and the entire game just kind of has that feel. And that's really the big plus. You've also got the beautiful sprites. Like the 32-bit shoot 'em up era was definitely one of the best if you're a fan of the genre. So, I could highly recommend Game Tengoku CruisinMix if you're a fan of these old school shoot 'em ups. The price point on Steam, I feel, is right for the content that you're getting. I look forward to the DLC that's planned. So my very first game from the company Jaleco was City Connection. And although Jaleco went out of business a number of years ago, the company that rose from its ashes is actually called City Connection. And their first DLC is going to be the City Connection car and driver Clarice. So I'm really looking forward to when that releases as well. So, nostalgia aside, there's definitely a lot here to really like for if you enjoy super hyper goofy shoot 'em ups. If you're interested, I'll include a link to the Steam page below, and as always, I want to thank you so much for coming out and joining me for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.